to another episode of A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I am your host, Adam, and today we have a very special guest, and we're going to continue with the same conversation of the school system, education, mental health awareness, reopening the schools, a topic that's on the forefront of many people. I want to present our guest this episode. She is not only a trustee for the Oxnard Union High School District, she's also a middle school teacher, the English Language Arts for the Oxnard School District, and she's also a teacher leader for various organizations, including the United States Library of Congress, UCSB South Coast Writing Project, and Stanford University's Instructional Leadership Corps. I want to welcome Karen Sher to the program this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is a very important topic, Karen. As you know, I had an interview with Principal Tilleron from the Pacifica High School. We discussed a lot of different, issues, challenges, strategies going forward. But I wanted to bring you on this program because as a trustee for the Oxnard High School District and as a teacher yourself, you also bring a different perspective and element into the whole equation of what's going on with our current education system. So first and foremost, I want to ask you, how are you doing? How is your family? How have you been adapting during this entire craziness?
Oh my goodness. Well, in addition to being a trustee and a teacher, I'm also a parent to 3 public school age children. My daughter is a sophomore. I have another daughter who's in 8th grade and a son who's in 6th grade. And they're all experiencing distance learning as well. Yeah. And so we have school is all over our house these days, because while I'm teaching through distance learning and supporting my students, I know that their teachers are doing the best that they can to support my own children. So I'm just grateful to all of the teachers out there. Public education is the underpinning of our democracy.
Yeah.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
We make all other professions possible.
Yeah, no, and that's the absolute truth. And I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing well, adapting well to this process, which is not the case with a lot of families. There's some families who are really struggling. There's a lot of challenges out there from working from home or being laid off, losing your job, losing your home, and having to do distant learning. There's too many moving parts, and some families or parents just don't have the right mindset to be able to adapt to that, where some parents do and some don't. So it's been challenging. What are the most common challenges that you have heard of, Karen, as a teacher and also as a trustee? What's the biggest challenge out there right now?
The biggest challenge is equity. What I have been saying since this all started and prior to this happening, this pandemic, is that we need to provide equity and access to all students to go on to have a powerful future. But equity is not providing the same thing for every student. Equity is providing what that student needs in order to achieve and grow. And so that's a very heavy lift. I mean, that takes everybody in the community. And if this pandemic has shown us anything, it has shown us the economic disparities that exist in our own community, very deeply in our own community, and in surrounding communities and within, around the whole United States of America. Those who can afford tutors, or those who can afford private lessons, or they want to send their child to a school that the campus that's open. And so there are the economic disparities in our community are very deep. And in the teaching community, we use a term called Maslow before Bloom.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning that we need, meaning that really, in order for a child to succeed and grow, we have to serve their social and emotional and physical needs in order to make that happen. And so the food insecurity and healthcare insecurity, I mean, if you're afraid of getting sick because you don't have healthcare, while others are in the community maybe taking that for granted, that they have insurance or they can go visit the doctor if they're sick. I mean, these are real systemic inequalities that exist in our community. So
I think that's a very good point. And along with equity, Karen, what do you think about the retention aspect of things, like how you're making sure the students are actually retaining the information or the education, the instruction that's given to them. Because I'm going to be very honest with you, I have nieces and nephews who they opt not to turn on their cameras when they're in class, and because they don't have them on, they're doing other stuff and they're distracted. Some kids are sleeping, some kids are playing video games while the instructor is on. So the equity part of it is so important, but how about the retention? How do we make sure that these students are actually receiving the information, retaining it, and getting those good grades? Because I'm interested to know, like, what are the grades like? Yeah, like Principal Taylor and said, well, we have a 97.2% participation from our students, which is great. What are the grades like? Is that reflecting also the grades of it? Because one thing is to have participation, but then where's the retention? Where's the accountability? Do the grades reflect the actual engagement and participation? Is that a challenge?
It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Global pandemic or not. Um,
Yeah,
that,
that's true.
that right. I mean, that is the essence of teaching. That teachers meet students where they are all the time. That's what we do as educators, is that
Yeah.
we meet students where they are, even in the best of circumstances. And to your question, I mean, it's a very, very deep question, because and it's also a very entitled perspective, because what we're saying is that students are not learning and growing during this time, but students are learning and growing. They're just
Hmm.
learning and growing in different ways. And
Mm.
there are no good choices right now. The only safe choice is to remain at home. And that is not the choice, that we wish we could be back on campuses. We want to
Correct.
be with our students. That's teachers are trained to socially engage students. We
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
so there's been a learning curve for teachers as well. We can't forget that on a Friday, our campus is closed, but schools did not close. Campus is closed.
Yeah.
And so teachers have been, doing online professional learning and participating in professional learning communities in order to learn how to
Yeah.
best instruct our students this way. So there is a learning curve for everybody,
Yeah.
not just for the students, but for the teachers as well, because this is completely opposite than what we've been trained to do. No, but having said that, the other part to that point is that, these benchmarks that we place on students, they're random. I mean,
Mm.
they are placed there by educators, by professionals, by people who have training, but they are arbitrary. These benchmarks are arbitrary, and they are also, when we talk about systemic inequalities, you know, we know that students who fall in the socioeconomically disadvantaged categories, or homeless and foster youth, or our students of
Mm.
color, are sometimes not meeting those benchmarks
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the global pandemic and distance learning will exacerbate those. It will show
Mm.
that there is a learning gap, but the other end of that is that at some point we will be back on
Yeah.
campuses, and we are all learning and growing, and we will find ways to help students learn and grow. That is what professional educators do.
And that's awesome. And I think you bring up a good point. The learning curve is the student as well as the teachers. I firmly believe that we're not giving the credit necessary to the teachers, because they're also going through a tough time. Like I spoke to Principal Lawrence. Some of these teachers, this is their life. Some of these teachers, this is what they know. This is what they do.
Me
Right.
too.
So
Yeah.
you're not only a trustee for the Oxnard High School District, so you not only have the insight of the strategies, but as a teacher, you also feel the impact, whether it's negative or positive, of the entire situation. So teachers, and I feel for them. That's why I asked Principal Lawrence, how are your teachers, man? Like, how is their mental stability? How are they coping when they're not having that contact, that in-person relationship engagement with their students? They cannot have in-person people, what is a teacher parent conference. They need to be grading, virtually, and giving exams virtually. Like, that must be so devastating, in all levels. So my question to you, Karen, is, aside from you as well, how do you see overall the teachers in our school district? How are they? how are they adapting? How are they coping? How are they getting by to know that, hey, this will be over soon. We'll be in classes soon, but in the meantime, this has been devastating. So what's the feel out there?
Well, I think I don't want to speak for all teachers, but
Correct.
I do know a lot of
Yeah,
teachers.
correct.
With the Oxnard Union High School District, I, as a trustee and as an educator, have participated in the multiple. I think we're up to months now of a committee called the Learning Redesign Committee, where educators volunteer their time to participate and learn about learning, distance learning, and best practices and plans for the future. And we've had, I mean, at the last meeting was this past week, we had 107 teachers on that call.
Mm.
And I've been on that call where there have been almost 200 teachers on that call. So teachers are really reaching out to each other because we know that the best, the magic of teaching happens when we collaborate.
Yeah,
And that's every
that's
day.
true. Yeah.
That's every day. Teachers are very autonomous in our classrooms, but the magic happens when we talk with each other and learn from each other. And so the learning opportunities that the Oxnard Union High School District has provided for its teachers have been by its own teachers,
Wow.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
And that goes to one of the groups that I'm a teacher leader for. And one of the things I'm so proud of within the Oxnard Union High School District is our move toward teachers teaching teachers.
Mm.
So the Instructional Leadership Corps out of Stanford and with the California Teacher Association, I'm a founding member and a teacher leader, and we deliver professional learning for teachers across the state of California. And it under the premise that teachers learn best from other teachers, right?
Mm. That
And
I that's a really good approach. I think that's something that's needed. Support group teachers with teachers. Having said that, this pandemic, this crisis, this situation has really affected the core of the emotional stability of a lot of people, families, parents, whatever profession you're in, doctors, pastors, principals, faith leaders, whatever it is, teachers. So, depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, sadness, that has been like the number one driving force for a lot of devastated homes that have become broken. I was sharing with Principal Lawrence that I'm a faith leader in our community, and we always hear about faith leaders, pastors, clergy, priests who have, done some devastating things because depression has just overcome them. And I really haven't been informed of the school district or any education institute suffering in that aspect, but I can only imagine that there has to be some type of level of negative impact emotionally that becomes something so unstable to individuals and teachers. To have the support group, I think it's so important to have that synergy, that engagement, not only from teacher to teacher, but the support of the principal, of the staff, of all personnel. I just think, and I believe that that's probably what keeps them sane, what keeps them together. To know that they have that support group and that they're not alone, for the simple fact that you can't just go into your class or you can't just go to school. You're not going to be back to normal tomorrow. So my question to you is, what, if anything, and I believe Principal Lawrence talked about this, what resources or support are given to teachers that are going through a hard time emotionally?
well, teachers are part of a collective bargaining unit, right? And they're a local union, and their union negotiates collective bargaining rights like insurance benefits and salary, right? And so the teachers in the Oxnard Union High School District have access to mental health professionals through their insurance, which they are provided with by the district. Right. So that, unions are important. They are our labor partners, and I'm part of a union, and I am active in my union causes.
Yeah.
And that's important because, there are over 500,000 public school teachers in the state of California,
Mhm.
and there's power in numbers. So we bargain for our rights and for our insurance benefits and things like that. So we're very fortunate to be a part of that. But the other part of that is with regard to students' mental health. Well, let me just back up and say that with regard to teachers' mental health, like I said, I can only speak for myself and but I really believe that teachers, are grieving for their classrooms.
Yeah.
We talk about mental instability. It's not mental instability, it's sadness.
Sadness.
I mean, it could become mental instability, but it is really a sadness, and it is a deep sadness. I mean, we are professional educators. We love being with our students.
Yeah.
The magic, so to speak, happens when we're in our classrooms with our
Yes.
students, right? So there is a loss there, and it has been hard. And when teachers are teaching to black screens, like you say,
Yeah.
I teach to black boxes all day
Yeah.
long, and it's hard. It's really it's not the same. And like I said, there are no good choices, but this is the safest choice.
Yeah.
With regard to student mental health, the Oxnard Union High School District is doing some really wonderful things and some groundbreaking things. Last night, we passed our first resolution with regard to grading with equity, which is just the first of many other pieces to come. The next steps are called administrative regulations, but the resolution is very important because it will really change the way we assess students. You ask about assessment, and instead of working for points, we're really working for mastery. And when teachers go to college, there is no class on grading.
Mm.
And I'm not sure that people understand that, right? Grading is like a fly-by-night thing. And most of the grading is like what we liked as students. Oh, that worked. I really liked that. Or maybe what we heard another teacher using, and we try it out, or we practice that kind of. But there is no class in grading. And so as a district, it's really, I think we are like doing some groundbreaking work in passing a resolution that really moves toward a more equitable grading philosophy. So I'm really proud of that. That just happened last night.
That's really good. And I commend you for that. I think that's a really good step in the right direction. So good job on that.
Thank you. And then with regard to mental health, as a trustee, this is my second term, and I've been working since becoming a trustee. And before that, I have a dream. Everyone needs a dream, right?
Yeah.
And I have a dream that when a student enters high school, that not only are they assigned their academic counselor and their teachers and their assistant principal, but they would also be assigned a mental health provider. And we've been working really hard on that goal. That's a very heavy lift. Takes a lot of planning and money, obviously. And at every corner, someone is telling you no. I mean, that's just the nature of schools don't provide mental health. We don't, right? But again, we need to help students be mentally sound so that they can achieve their learning and growing. So in the past couple of years, the Oxnard Union High School District created a position called the School Intervention Specialist. And essentially it is a mental health provider. So in addition to an academic counselor that would help students, like what you would normally think of as a counselor, is not a mental health provider. They are they support students with their grades, with their transcripts, with getting into college, right? Things like that. So we have one SIS, that's what we call them, School Intervention Specialists. We have one at every comprehensive site, in addition to Frontier, which is a small site, but it is our alternative high school. And we are working, we just started work, I think last night was part of it. We are going to receive a grant that will help us put a wellness center on every campus.
Great.
And in that wellness center will be that will be driven by what that community needs, because our district encompasses many different communities, and so every school will decide what that wellness center will look like, but there will be funds devoted to that center and ongoing support. And what we're working up to is having an SIS, a school intervention specialist, at every grade level.
Wow.
So that when a student enters school, they get their mental health professional, and that person, ideally it's the same person, that person would loop with them until they're a senior.
Wow. You guys are doing amazing stuff, and it's great.
And it gives me goosebumps right now, right? Because, and so in our board goals, as a trustee, what's really important for any trustee, anybody who's appealing to the board for something, that everything a school district does has to be based on the board goals. Every dollar that's directed, every right is based on what are your board goals. And so this year, for the first time, I'm so thrilled that mental health support and services actually are board goal number 2.
Wow.
Right under distance learning. And so we're really working hard on that. And I can't wait to see in the next few years, what really comes of those programs and how we're going to help students learn and grow.
That is awesome. We are speaking with Karen Sher. She's not only a trustee for the Oxnard Union High School District, she's also a middle school teacher in the Oxnard School District. Karen, the last piece of this interview, I want to discuss your role as a trustee for the Oxnard High School District. What has been, the feeling in that room when you had to discuss shutdown, reopening strategy? What do we do? Distant learning. How important has everybody's input become during those meetings where you guys are just trying to, like the rest of the world, navigate through this challenging times?
That is a very good question, and I appreciate that question. And I serve on a board. It's very unusual. The board that the people that make up our school board are actually all current or former teachers. Right? They've served every role in a school. Between the 5 of us, even our newly elected, she was a teacher just a few months ago. She was a teacher in our district and then moved to Ventura Unified to become an assistant principal. So all of us are current or former teachers. So when we have conversations, I think they're probably very different from other school boards that have people from various fields. If someone is a stay-at-home parent or a medical profession or an architect, right? Or whatever it is, to have a board of educators, our conversations are very very student centered, and that's how it should be. It's every conversation that we have begins and ends with what is best for students.
Got it.
Right? What is in the best interest of students? Every dollar spent, every cut that's made, when we've been so fortunate, our budgets are balanced and looking really good. And of course, we're waiting for the governor's new budget to make any final decisions. But, in spite of this pandemic, we've had great leaders, our superintendent, our former superintendent, our current superintendent is Dr. McCoy, and he has taken on this role of superintendent during a global pandemic. I mean, that's
about a challenge.
Gutsy. Yeah. And his leadership has been incredible. And because he is a former teacher, and the best leaders, I mean, I say this all the time, my favorite thing in the whole world besides my children, and of course my dog, but my favorite thing in the whole world is when a teacher leader steps up and really works to be the change they wish to see. And everybody on that team, Dr. McCoy on down and Dr. De Leon before him, they're teacher leader warriors. And so when I think it feels like, everyone is on the same page, everyone's on board. And even though difficult conversations sometimes happen, that's okay. They need to happen. But we all are really cohesive, and I'm so proud of that. And, while other districts around us are seeing declining enrollment, our enrollment is actually up by almost 400 students this year. 400. That, that's not parents taking their kids out of our district and going over the hill like they used to. This is, people are really seeing that the Oxnard Union High School District is providing the best instruction with the most highly qualified, highly paid teachers. We are in the middle of $350 million worth of improvements through our Measure A. And, those improvements are happening right now while kids are on. I mean, one of the silver linings of this pandemic has been that a lot of the construction that we would have had to move kids around and swing buildings and schedule things, we get to do that while kids are not on campus. So a lot of the improvements, those $350 million, which by the way is through a project labor agreement with our union partners. And we're so grateful to them because we have not only been on time with our projects, we have been under budget.
Oh, that's awesome.
So anyone who says project labor agreements don't work, they don't come to the Oxnard Union High School District, right?
So they can see how it works, right?
Yeah, and so it's just so much going on. I mean, we could talk forever, and I
Yeah,
could talk forever about this because it's my
yeah,
heart, it's my passion. It's, we want every child to have a powerful future.
yeah.
And like I started the conversation, public education is a civil right. It's guaranteed to every student, regardless of where they're born or come from or their citizenship
Yeah.
status. And it is the underpinning of our democracy. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud to serve as a teacher and as a trustee.
Well, we thank you, Karen, and the board for an exceptional job. We commend you for the right steps you guys are taking for our students, our children, for the entire city of Oxnard, to really enhance and upgrade our education system and not have
State of the art.
state
That's
of the art
right.
system, right?
State
So
of the art. And we're building a new high school, and that's going to be done in August of 23. Del Sol High School. I mean, it's amazing.
Great things are happening in the city of Oxnard, especially in the school system. So we've been speaking with Karen Sher, trustee for the Oxnard Union High School District, as well as a middle school teacher for the Oxnard School District. Karen, we just want to say for everybody who's listening and watching this video, to all the teachers especially, we want to thank you.
To all the teachers.
Yeah,
Yes.
we thank you for hanging in there. We thank you for your passion, your commitment, your sacrifice, and just adapting to these crazy times. And even though you might be teaching to a black screen, just know that you're still making a difference, and the
Yes.
students are still learning at their own levels, at their own pace, but they're learning. So once again, you've been watching a Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez with our special guest Karen Sher, this segment. So Karen, any last words for our viewers?
Oh, thank you so much for supporting our schools, for supporting teachers, for asking me to be here. It's an honor to represent, and thank you so much for supporting us.
Yeah, and thank you for watching. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. This is Adam Lopez from A Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I want to thank you so much for watching my videos and watching every episode, every segment. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Continue sharing the content. You know what? We have many great interviews coming up, a lot of valuable content, a lot of valuable information, educational as well. So I want to thank you so much for your support and continue watching my videos.